I think we all desire to end our days feeling fulfilled rather than knocked off our feet. But personally, when I'm in a rush or I have a full schedule and so many different things to tend to, it's really easy for me to be swept up and out of the present moment and to get back to that grounded, slower pace of living that really fulfills me and allows me to find gratitude in everything that I'm doing. So for today's Slow Saturday episode, I would like to share the 5 practical ways that I always fall back on to slow down the pace of my days. I just want to say that slowing down, in my opinion, does not necessarily mean that the day is going to go by easy. Doesn't mean that it's going to be stress-free. In fact, I think it's nearly impossible for most of us to experience those two things because of the responsibilities that we each have and the obligations in our lives. But slowing down for me personally has always allowed me to focus on the present moment much more. It has made me less prone to distractions when I am trying to focus on a specific task at hand. And it also allows me to make sure that my heart is in the right place no matter what I'm doing. It could be, the mundane task of cleaning the kitchen. It could be preparing a meal for my family, even completing work for my YouTube channel. It keeps my eyes on what is important, and it also just helps to maintain that sense of peace in my heart as well. So if you are looking for practical ways to do this in your own life, I hope that you feel inspired after watching this video to try one of them out. You don't need to do them all at once. You don't have to do them all every day, but give it a try. See what works for you. See if it helps to change the pace at which you are moving through your day. The first practical way that I slow down the pace of my days right from the very start when I wake up is by playing calming music in the morning rather than something that is upbeat and energetic. I definitely used to find myself listening to that more energetic music in the morning in my late teens, early 20s, but I feel like now the pace at which I go through my days is determined by how my morning goes. And so listening to calmer music just helps me to get down to a grounded level and just ease into my day rather than becoming so high energy right at the start. I don't think that either one is right or wrong, and there's definitely a time and place for each one, but personally, I do find that calmer music like peaceful piano, a cozy acoustic playlist, or classical music definitely helps to slow things down rather than speed them up. The second practical way that I often slow down the pace of my days is by making something with my hands, making something from scratch, whether that is a baking treat or cooking a meal from scratch, like for example, making spaghetti from scratch versus using, a jar of sauce. Obviously, I do both of those things. I'm not always making stuff from scratch. It's just not realistic on a lot of days. But I do find that on those days where I take the time to make something with my hands, as a female, there's just something so special about doing that, I find, especially, being a wife and a mother and a homemaker. It is very fulfilling to make something and know that a lot of love has gone into it. And this could even be like crafting something with my hands. It doesn't necessarily need to be food, but I find that handiwork grounds me in a sense. It also delays gratification because you've got to wait a little longer. It requires patience, and it also requires focus. So when I am working on something like that, whether it's in the kitchen or a painting that I'm working on, my focus is on the task at hand. At least I very much try to be focused when I'm doing these things. Even if my daughter's beside me, making a mess in the kitchen, I can really immerse myself in that moment of making something. I am definitely learning as a new mom to engage my daughter in these types of activities with me, even if it does mean there's going to be a bigger mess, because I know that it's the moments where we're working with our hands together and we're creating something together that she will remember down the road. I know she's only like a year and a half, but as time goes on, it becomes something that we're going to be doing more and more together. So really including her in those activities, I find fills my heart with a lot of joy, and I think that it also probably does the same for her. So if you have littles in your house, I encourage you to include them in an activity like this and, see where it takes you. Don't be too worried about the mess. Just be in that present moment and find joy and gratitude in working with the hands and heart. The third practical way in which I try to slow down the pace of my days is by having a device-free morning. So for me, this means staying off of my cell phone when I am making breakfast and sitting down to eat with my daughter, pretty much until we are ready to go out for the day. I will try my best to keep my phone in a separate room from wherever I am, which is often just in the kitchen. And then for my daughter, I have really been working to keep the TV off for that morning period. I think that it helps to regulate her emotions and behavior much better than when she actually is watching TV right from the morning. This is just what I've found personally in our lives and what has been working for us. Having that device-free morning really allows us to remain present and keep it at a slower pace for sure, and it helps to set the tone for our day too. The fourth practical way that I often fall back on to slow down the pace of my days is by prepping things the night before or even the day before if I have time earlier on. So for us, this looks like preparing our iced coffees and having them ready to go in the fridge. All we've got to do in the morning is drop in a couple of ice cubes and then we're good to go. My husband wakes up extra early to get to work in the morning, so we will often make an overnight oats for him in a to-go container, as well as his lunch, so that all of that is prepped so he doesn't need to rush in the morning getting all of those things done before he actually leaves. I think that certainly helps set the tone for his day. And then also for me, having a coffee prepped, if I'm waking up a little bit earlier than my daughter, it's nice to just have that ready so that I can ease into a little bit of a morning routine with my journal, doing scripture readings and things like that. And for my daughter, it often means taking out her, dish for her breakfast, just having things ready and out for us to use right away. Even the easiest tasks that would be done in the morning, having them prepared already really slows down our morning routine, which is super nice for staying in the present moment and not feeling like there's a million things to do. Another thing that really helps me personally is having the kitchen tidied up before I go to bed so that when I wake up in the morning, I'm not walking into a mess. I'm not walking into 10 tasks that need to be completed. Often this just means loading the dishwasher and starting it, making sure there's no dirty dishes in the sink, and making sure the counters are wiped down clean so that I don't feel the need to have to go in there right away and clean everything up. It's so simple, but it really helps to slow down our mornings. I feel like there's a theme here of me talking about the morning, but it is such a massive indicator of how the day is going to go. Obviously, I do believe that we can turn our days around at any point throughout them. However, the way that our morning starts is honestly such a big contributor to how the rest of our day goes. Now, for the final practical way to slow down the pace of your day, this is something that is not really done in the morning, I guess. It's not part of the morning routine, but it's simply to have a meaningful conversation with someone at any point in your day, even, more than one person if possible. For me, I definitely realize that when I am in a rush or I am super busy and I've packed maybe a few too many things into one day, I don't feel inclined to have conversations with the people around me because I'm distracted. I'm distracted by the tons of things that are on my to-do list. I'm distracted by what's to come next, getting to the next thing on time, and all of those other things that are swirling around in my mind. And it's almost as if I can't see the people in front of me, at least when it comes to strangers, for example. So if I'm going to pick up food, or I'm going through a drive-through, if I'm at the grocery store and there's someone, in line in front of me, or the cashier even, actually putting in the effort to say hello, to ask someone how they are, and to take it further than that initial response of, oh, good, how are you? And have a little bit of a conversation. It's probably usually only like 2 to 5 minutes long. It's such a minuscule part of the day time-wise, but it has such a meaningful impact. I feel like having conversations with people and introducing ourselves to one another is not considered a normal thing anymore. It reminds me of this one situation that I was in a couple of weeks ago. I was at a concert, and the girl next to me had just, walked into the row. And so I turned to her and I said, "Hi, my name is Haley. What's your name?" And she looked at me kind of baffled, that I was talking to her. It didn't make me feel great, I won't lie, but I was like, people don't really do this, I guess. I guess it's normal to just, sit beside the person next to you and go on your phone, or completely ignore them for however long you're beside each other. So that was a really interesting experience, but it got me thinking, we have the power in ourselves to have those conversations, to create connections with those around us. And the more that we just sit back and ignore everybody around us, I guess, the easier it becomes to do, and the harder it becomes over time to actually get out of our comfort zones and to build those connections. Community is really, really important, especially with, everything being digital, so much interaction solely on social media. Interactions in real life and building community in real life is more important now than ever. And having those meaningful conversations is just a tiny way to slow down and be more present. So those are the 5 practical ways that I fall back on to slow down my days. I hope that you feel inspired to try one of these out, or more than one, in your own life, and see if you too can slow down the pace of your days and be more present in whatever it is that you're doing. I do believe that it's possible to be productive and get things done without being in a rush and without being extremely busy. I hope that over time and through the content on my channel here, you're able to achieve that in your own life, because I do think that it's a really wonderful way to live. I think that there is so much beauty around us that can be noticed and absorbed by us when we simply slow down and simplify our lives. This marks episode 2 of my Slow Saturdays series, but I do have a first episode where I shared how minimalism has actually allowed me to discover and be my authentic self. So I will link that above if you're interested in watching. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I will see you in the next one.